Good evening, one and all, and welcome to this very special live stream from MYT and Hello Demo. I'm your host, Paul Nolan. I'm the owner and the founder of MYT, and I'm here to listen to some tracks this evening. Obviously, this is a live track feedback session, and yeah, super exciting to listen to some of the tracks that we had submitted through Hello Demo over the last few days, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in. So yes, if you don't know who I am or what we're doing here at MYT, we are an artist development platform that is here to help you become the best artist you can be by becoming the best version of yourself. Now, that is a bit of a tagline, but it's actually the truth. And we've got an incredible community of artists who are doing incredible things at the minute. Recently, we've had our members like Kathari, for example, played on Radio 1. We have a member currently number 1 on Beatport on Electro. Hello to Dan Lama, well done, mate. And also incredible artists like Solar Kings, who are doing incredible things in the organic house space, and Architect, who has had a top Beatport release recently. So yeah, it is really, really good stuff, and we've got an incredible community. We've really developed over the last year or so, and it would be amazing to kind of have you along, and there'll be more details on that later on. So just say hello to Mr. Abraham Clark. Hello, sir. Good to see you on there. And yes, we will be, as I say, listening to a few tracks this evening. So let's just give you a bit of a rundown about how all of this is going to work. Okay, so we've got here tonight, as I say, this is a special track feedback session from Hello Demo and MYT. And we're going to listen to 10 tracks this evening. And we're going to go into the technical, the creative, the arrangement, and the mix down aspects of these tracks that have been submitted using the Hello Demo platform. And also, as well, going into any other constructive feedback that we've got. So this is super fun. So ultimately, we do this twice a month with our MYT AAA members. So this is a kind of a good tasting of like what we offer here at MYT, and we listen to tracks on a regular basis. We have regular office hours. We've got over 20 plus online courses and a hell of a lot of stuff as well, and we are big partners of Hello Demo. We absolutely love what they do, what they're standing for, and the platform that they're building. So we're quite proud to be in partnership with Hello Demo, and that's why I'm here this evening. So yes, there you go. So yes, if you need more information about that, head over to www.transition.studio, loads of information on there, and you will find everything that we do. As I say, 20 plus courses, amazing engaged community. You know, we do all of these like track feedback sessions either weekly via Zoom or end of the month, and it just produces an amazing amount of development for people. So hopefully you're going to find the feedback I give tonight really useful for your own productions, as well as for, you know, the people who are actually watching it. So even if you haven't got a track that's been selected, then, you know, you're probably going to pick up tips and a bit of inspiration as well. So without much further ado, let us get on with it, shall we? So this will be a super fun session. So this is all good. Okay, so let me just move over here and show you what we've got going over here. Yes, we are using a very particular plugin this evening that I'm a very big fan of. We use this in our track feedback sessions over at MYT. It is the Adapter Audio Metric AB, which you can get from our other good friends at Plugin Alliance. And this is a massive tool for us in terms of looking at track feedback, and also as well a huge tool for me as a artist, you know, working with reference tracks, looking at things for mix down, you know, various different aspects, and you'll see how we use this through. So all good, and I'm just going to say a very special good evening to Mr. Gasso. We're going to be listening to one of Kurt's tracks a little bit later on, you know, just to give you that bit of a disclaimer to start off with. So that is going to be all good. And yes, thank you to Hello Demo for having me and letting me loose on your platform. So yes, excellent stuff. So yes, this will be, as I say, a very fun evening, and let's let rip. First of all, out the gate, we've got Andy Klage, Let You Go, and again, you can see all the different tracks at the bottom there. So if you are one of those lucky artists, then well done. I'm going to give you my honest feedback on a number of different things, so make sure you've got a pen and paper ready. And of course, this is going to be watchable on demand back through both of our YouTube channel on MYT, our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. and also as well on Hello Demo's Facebook page. So yeah, we are across all of this evening. So excellent stuff. So without much further ado, let's get into it and let's have a little look at Andy Klage's track. And it is called Let You Go. I'm just going to play it here and then I'm just going to fade it up because obviously these tracks are all kind of unsigned. So we want to make sure that, you know, we're sensitive to people's needs here and they're, you know, keeping the track special. Okay, so let's go with Andy's track then. All right, there's Andy Klage, and let you go. And yeah, some great comments there. And yeah, feel free to drop comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. I'm getting them all on here. I'll put some of the best ones on screen. And basically, I'm just going to field a couple of questions here. First of all, Tony Mark, good to see you, mate. How do you send tracks over? These were all sent over by last night using the Hello Demo platform. Although we will be doing regular ones of these, I'm sure. So make sure you have a little look at the next one. To be honest with you, this is making me think I should do these more often just on the MYT channel, to be honest with you. I think that would be a really nice thing. So stay tuned for more information on that. And Kurt, what's the YouTube link? If you just head over to youtube.com, and then if you can, go over to MYT, youtube.com/make your transition, you'll just see it's the live link right there. Anyway, you should be subscribed. You should know better. There you go. Excellent. Okay, so yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I think it's got a great groove. I think it works really well. I love what Tony was saying about how the vocal pierces through and it really carries it. I think it works really, really well. And on a creative front, I think it's really cool. I think it maintains the interest all the way through. I think that's a big thing, that with a rolling groover like this, it can sometimes be a bit of a challenge to kind of keep things interesting. But you've managed to do that with lots of nice little neat tricks with the drums in particular, with the way that you've, programmed it, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, like props to you on that. Now, in terms of the arrangements, as I've said, structurally, I think it works really well. I think you've got it, in a really decent place where you've got, you've got a nice long break there just at the right moment, just to build that tension and to, switch things up at the right moment so things don't get too linear, things don't get too monotonous. So yeah, great stuff there, great stuff. On the technicals, like as you can see, I can break down the track using the spectrum analyzer here. You've got a phase correlation. That all looked good. Your stereo image was an interesting one. We'll talk about that in a moment. And also loudness. So the loudness, I'm basically referencing this to -8 LUFS as a mastering standard. And that was well in the right sort of ballpark. And again, it looks like it's a nice dynamic thing. It sounded good all the way through in terms of it wasn't a tiring experience on the ears, right? It was a good, nice, pleasant listen that didn't tire me out through the course of it. Again, when you get really loud tracks like this, it can be quite problematic at times because, again, the waveforms can come out like basically like a sausage, if you know what I mean. And you'll end up with, again, a very squashed track in order to try and make it loud. You've done a really good job here of balance and loudness with dynamic range. So I agree with Tony on that part of the mix. I think is good. I did think you can get more out of it in a couple of different ways. So first of all, I actually think the low end was maybe a little bit much, and I think you maybe just need to tame it just a little bit. Now, I'm going to caveat that by saying I am an extreme nitpicker, and our AAA members can tell you that I'm very, very, very particular when it comes to certain things, and I will push people quite hard. Even when they think the track is done, I am still pushing for more. So it's all good. It's all good. So in terms of this, I think, again, just being a bit more gentle with the low end will create even more dynamic and a little bit more space. And again, it'll give you a little bit more roundness. So how you can do that is you were really sort of peaking out there in that sort of like 45, 50 area. Maybe soften that a little bit, either with a little bit of multi-band compression on your kick, just ever so slight. I'm talking not even 1 dB of dynamic range or gain reduction, or you can use a little shelf EQ. Again, be a little bit tighter with your filters, and then bring a little bit more air into it, a little more sizzle, a little bit more presence, because I did find it ever so slightly dull. And again, I'm talking like minuscule amounts. I could do with a little bit more shine, a little bit more presence, and a little bit more cut through. And I understand that in this genre, sometimes things are gritty and you want things to almost sound a little rough, but a little bit of sharpness running through that, I think, would work well. You could do that in a couple of different ways. You could do that by, again, utilizing one of my favorite exciters or that kind of thing is the Fresh Air plugin from Slate Digital. That is a sort of a fairly recent but free plugin, which is based on something called the Dolby A trick, which is like a Dolby A noise reduction system that used to be used for cassettes and stuff back in the day, but it used to add like a little pleasant excitement to things in the top end. That's a really great plugin, and you can do mid-air and then high air basically, and you can balance them off. Well worth having. It's a free plugin and it sounds great. If you are a fan of Slate Digital, I love the Air EQ from Eosis as well as a great one, and you can just add that little bit of air into things, and it just again gives presence, adds loudness, whilst not actually over egging the whole thing, if you know what I mean. Just talking about your stereo image here as well, I did notice there's a little bit of stereo movement in the low end. Not much, but it's always good to get hold of these things because, again, most club sound systems are mono in nature. So you'll want to make sure that your mixes translate, okay? So one of the ways to do that is to use a mono maker. I mean, the likes of Voxengo do a free one. You can even do this if you're an Ableton user. You can even do this now with utility. You've got like bass mono. I think that was brought in Live 10. It's there in Live 11 as well. And you can use that to kind of force the low end of your track into mono. I do this a lot in mixdowns and in mastering using the Brainworks BX Digital V3 plugin, which is another insane plugin, mastering grade EQ from Brainworks, again part of Plugin Alliance, and I normally set that to as high as 300 hertz actually. So you've got the whole of your low mids and your lows right in the middle, and it will translate well into club play when the clubs eventually open, right? So that's all good. So yeah, I think, you know, you've got a really, really nice solid track here. And I think, you know, another pass with the mix down will work beautifully and will allow you to bring that little bit of detail, that little bit of texture out, and be able to create a little bit more space and get your mono compatibility right. And then you're off to the races. One final thing, sort of moving towards the creative stuff, is I think you can get more out of your drops as well. I think there's a little bit more tension to be built in the builds, and then maybe a little bit more impact. Again, you know, we use white noise for a reason. Yes, it's a bit cliched, but cliches are cliches for a reason, right? Because they work. So, you know, maybe even adding just a little, as I call it, like a little spritz of white noise at the drops, or, you know, using sends to reverbs and delays and then pull them back into a nice sort of dry groove would work perfectly for you on that one. But thanks for sending that in, Andy. Absolutely great start. Really, really nice. Okay, so next we're going to go to Obsidian, and they sent a few tracks in, and this is the one that I picked. So let's have a little listen to this little fella, shall we? And here we go. All right, there you go. There was Obsidian, and yeah, really, really cool. Really into that. Really enjoyed that. A really great journey, as Tony Mark just said there. Excellent. Really good feedback here. The percussive sounds are very nice. I like how they reflect off the kick. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, it reminds me. I mean, if you want a really great reference for this style of music, there's an amazing. I'm such a huge fan of these guys called Cast. They're KASST with like a colon in the middle, and they just produce some of the most unbelievable, ethereal but really aggressive, really emotional but atmospheric techno that I've heard in recent years, quite frankly. Phenomenal track list, discography, if you will, that those guys produce. And this really reminded me of it, a more sort of minimal kind of stripped back version of this. And that kind of forms the basis of the feedback I want to give here, because I really like the groove. I really like the interesting sounds. I think there's so much potential here. And again, like I said with Andy's track, I think there's more to come. There's more levels that you can get out of this. I think, again, you can get more out of the builds. You could really go huge on this, because I love the way it built up in that final third and then dropped almost to a kick again. I actually personally think that you could do with building it up even more, really making it a peak time moment and then really dropping it to nothing, literally just to the kick like you did. So you get that lovely contrast between the epic sort of build and tension and high end and excitement of the build, and then that drop again right the way down to almost nothing. So I think work on that, because that will help this track like move along. I do think that it does take a little bit of time to get going. For tracks like this, I like more rhythmical layers. I was waiting for a ride. I was waiting for, a 16th note, either like a shaker or like a closed hi-hat, that kind of thing, to really arrive and like add momentum to it, whilst you've got all these lovely sort of morphing kind of like low end elements kind of like, marauding around the mix. I think as well you could possibly, and again, this goes back to the Cast reference, I think you can get a little bit more atmospheric and a little bit more textured. Like, this style of techno is going way more textured now. And, you're almost hearing like organic elements coming into it. And I think that is something that you can really work on and really be successful with, because, the more atmosphere and the more sort of epic you make this, you can really take this places. It comes down to what kind of track you want it to be, right? Because, if you listen to some of the Cast references, they're very melodic and they're very emotive and very sort of, how can I put it, very melancholic and kind of wistful. Almost like a kind of a harder version of A Tale of Us, if you know what I mean. Whereas this is a bit more stripped back, a bit more burly. So it depends on whether you want this to be a bit more of a rhythmic groover, or you want it to be a little more, I don't know, a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more melodic. It depends, but there's space for that. Even if you just added in some really nice floaty atmospheric pads that kind of just come in and out and morph and move and that kind of thing, you've got a huge amount there. I think what would suit the texture of this track as well is a bit more granular synthesis as well. Some of my favourite granular synths are like Arturia Pigments, which has just been updated to version 3. Looking forward to giving that a run out in the next few days. I love Omnisphere 2. I love the granular engine in like Reactor. The granular stuff in there is amazing, and you can get some really great free ensembles for that kind of thing. Another one of my favourites is a very cheap plugin called The Mangle, which is just phenomenal for what it can do, and I think it's like under €50, something like that. It's really, really cheap. So you'll really enjoy that, I think, and you guys will get a lot more out of it. But yeah, I mean, like, props, because this is a great track. This is a great track waiting to happen. It already sounds great. It's already in the right kind of ballpark. Also have to commend you on your stereo imaging here. Again, very, very mono here in the low end. This is something I look for a lot. And yeah, basically on the loudness side of things here, again, monitoring to -8 LUFS, you might have seen through the playback, it was actually over. So it's kind of a bit over loud, which you've got to be a bit careful of, because again, various platforms that you will upload it to, like for example, Spotify or Apple Music or Beatport, that kind of thing, they all have their own sort of arbitrary loudness levels, and that can be further limited and can really compromise the quality of your track overall. So try and just keep it to that -8 LUFS. And again, what you'll see in the Metric AB plugin is that you get, again, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes Radio, Apple Music, Tidal, all of these different kind of loudness standards, all the way through to Are You Deaf, which we don't really want to go there, do we? So yeah, basically I would recommend, looking at that and getting that mastering level just right on the limiter, because again, you don't want to be penalized for it. Another great website that you can use to check that is called loudnesspenalty.com. That's really useful. You can upload your track and it will tell you like how many dBs it will drop by. Fantastic website, set up by Ian Shepherd, who's a fantastic mastering engineer and a really great resource for understanding the mastering process. One final thing as well, I did bring it up on screen. Tony said that I think the kick starts really punchy and then loses its presence when the bass comes in. I'm inclined to kind of agree with this, and it can happen in a number of different ways, because as you add more and more information, the kick starts to, and especially the transient of the kick, starts to really have to compete with all the other instruments in the track. So it can kind of get a bit lost in the shuffle a little bit. So you can actually combat that in a couple of different ways. You can combat it by really educated use of sidechaining. Again, great plugins like Shaperbox, LFO Tool, Kickstart, really great for that more volume envelope kind of thing, and you can get really into that. We've also made a Max for Live kind of like basic rack for automatic sidechaining, which is free, which we call Mother Ducker. Yes, I said Mother Ducker, so I'm not swearing online at the moment. Maybe later if a really good track gets played. And that's free on our website. You can just go over to our website and go to our free stuff section at the bottom, and you'll see all like the free stuff that we give away, like ebooks and mix templates and A-button racks and stuff like that. Really, really helpful stuff. So yeah, like a little bit of sidechaining works well. You can actually, automate that as well, where you can maybe bring the level of the kick up a little bit, or you can use a transient designer. Again, Transient Master from Native Instruments is great if you've got that as part of Complete. I think you also get that as part of Machine if you have that. And even in Ableton, you've got a great drum bus plugin that has a transient shaper in there as well. So anything that you can bring, just automate it in the mix so it makes that kick cut through a little bit more, which is easy for me to say. Anyway, fantastic stuff no matter what. Great listen. And yes, we shall move on to the next one. Surab Kathari, The Point. So let's hear what the point of this track is, shall we? Here we go. Okay, there's Surab Kathari there with the points. Yeah, I mean, some really good stuff there, dude. And yeah, really think you're onto something here. There's a lot of potential here. I think there's a great basis of something that you've got. And I think there's a lot of potential for you to build on. Okay, first things first, I think the arrangement's really good. I think that's on point, structurally speaking. I think you've got it right. I think as well, like the main sort of grooves are good as well. And I think you've got, some potential there as well. And yeah, I think, you've got the movement right with like the ARP coming up and down and that kind of thing. Like you're onto the crux of the idea, right? I do think you need one or two more elements to really make this stand out. The good news is I think there's actually quite a bit of space for you to be able to do that. So as I mentioned before, with Obsidian's track, I'd just like a pad in there. You could have a really nice sort of sweeping pad that just adds loads of atmosphere, loads of texture, and be able to create it in such a way where it just adds a little bit more emotion in the right moments. You could have that just in those breakdown moments to signify, a slower section, a more emotional section, if you will. And, again, you can come up with a relatively good kind of, chord progression, harmonic progression, just to give it a little bit more, substance in the more melodic sense. As I say, I think you've got the right idea with the ARP coming up and down, but it does get a little bit linear because it's kind of just a single note thing, like, a couple of octaves just going up and down, and then it's just filters up and down. I think you've got a lot more potential to look at there. I think you could do with, working with the envelopes a little bit, starting off filters down, short, little plucks, almost like down to a click, and then opening it out. And then as you open out the filter, you can let the release go, and you've got that really nice, big, epic kind of vibe going on. And as Kurt says here, some sound design on that ARP. Again, like adding reverb to it at the right moment. You can send that ARP off to a reverb, especially when the filter's open, when the envelopes open out. Again, you can do that with, delays as well, and really get creative with that. And when it comes to automation as well, I would recommend actually assigning some rotary faders or rotary pots, or, using a controller like the Push, for example, if you're an Ableton user, or, any sort of generic MIDI keyboard, and be able to control them in real time and then record in your automation live over the course of the track, and then do several kind of like passes, if you will, for automation. It's what I do, and I get a load more life. It makes it sound almost like I'm performing tracks live when I do that type of thing. So it works really, really well. So I'd say for sure, look at that, look at adding those pads and adding in, again, you can almost add in like a lead sound as well on top of that. That'll give you that real nice sort of, almost like vocal sort of like melodic kind of thing, which will carry on, carrying the track through, because you've got some great rhythmical elements. That being said, I do think, like, in terms of the groove, it got a little bit simple, and the same things sort of repeated in the same order. So you might want to switch that up as well, and try and get a little bit more variation in there as well. I actually think you could do, again, I think it could do with some organic percussion in there. Don't be afraid to really experiment with things like bongos, congas, hand drums, that kind of thing, tambourines, because you've got a lot of really nice electronic elements in there. Might be quite nice to juxtapose it and contrast it with something a little more, organic, a little bit more acoustic, a little more human, and it brings the best out of both sides. So yeah, definitely, you've got the basis of something here, dude, and I'll be excited to possibly hear more of it when you've got it done. Okay. All good. Right, okay. So, just seeing this here, can you reply on Instagram? Not right now, because I'm in the middle of a feedback session, but I will. I will eventually when I get off this tonight. All right, all good. Right, okay, next one. Deltium, tell me where. Okay, well, you tell me. Let's have a listen, shall we? That's one of those. I almost feel guilty turning that off, quite frankly. That was fantastic. I've got to say, technically, I think that was a fantastic sounding record. I think it's really, really nice. Really polished. Really nice. Couldn't agree more with Tony here. Very floaty. Floaty and light. Excellent. Just the way we like it. And yet, lovely. You've got that kind of like, I want to say, sort of Anjuna deepy kind of vibe going on. And, it works really well. Like, you've got a nice balance of everything. Drums sound great. Vocal sits beautifully. I've got some feedback about that as well. And, yeah, just in general, I think this is a very, very accomplished production. So, well done, man. Well done. Well done. So, in terms of, like, other feedback that I want to give, I think the first thing I want to say is I've got a note structurally, because you can see where your main breakdown is, right? So if I just put the playhead here, between here and here, right? Now, if you notice, that's very much off to the right. So that's kind of like tilted more towards the end of the record. And I did notice that in like these sections here and here, I felt like I wanted that breakdown to happen like here. So there was almost like an entire section, like almost here to here, or you could even go here to here, that you could almost pull out of this section and give it to the final part of the track here. So you've got more to play with, and you can make it more dynamic, right? You can make it more interesting in that final third, because it almost felt like you were kind of running out of road a little bit to try and like get everything in. So structurally, if you were to shift that, bump it over, and then almost like take that section and then give it to the end, and then find a nice transition where you could almost build it up and get another little secondary break out of it, which is really interesting. Get an extra little drop out of it before it goes to the outro. That would work really, really well, because I've got to admit, it did feel like it was taking a bit of time to get to the breakdown as much as I was enjoying it. So I think that's a structural thing that you can fix quite easily, and it's something that can happen sometimes when you're structuring tracks in this way. Also, what I've got to say is I think there's room for more musicality, because I was getting like, all sorts of like harmonic progressions in my head, and almost hearing like a cinematic style kind of like orchestral strings, especially in the breakdown there. You've got an opportunity there to really bring some beautiful emotion. And, again, if you listen to some tracks on like Anjuna Deep, All Day I Dream is a great reference point for that. If you listen to my great friend Tim Green's work, especially on All Day I Dream, the Vacation to Life thing we did the breakdown on, the whole track walkthrough on last year, is well worth it. Well worth a watch, also on our YouTube channel. And also as well, his other great track, which was called For a Memory, which came out on, I think it was Get Weird a few years back. There's this beautiful, beautiful kind of like lyrical, cinematic, classical orchestral thing that you can bring in. And they almost act like pads, but they bring so much emotion. You've got a whole raft of other emotions and texture and feeling and intimacy, and you could get people crying on the dance floor with this thing if you get this right. Absolutely. And yeah, as Kurt says, who is another great exponent of these kinds of bits of music, this kind of genre, as he says, wish the pads could open up a bit on the filter, some automation. Yeah, I really agree with that. I really agree with that as well. But in general, absolutely stellar work, and Abraham agrees. Classic prog house sound. I dig it. This is excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So yeah, really great. Really, really great track. Really enjoyed that. And again, as far as the technicals go, can't fault yet. It really sat beautifully on the ears. Everything was right. It was at the right loudness. You can tell just by looking at the waveform without even listening to the thing that it's really dynamic and really nice. So yeah, excellent work, man. Excellent work. Right, I'm going to start, going through things at random a little bit. So I'm going to move to the man who's just had the last comment there. I'm going to move to Mr. Abraham Clark and Moon Motel New Fence 6. It's an interesting title. Let's see how the track goes, shall we? All right, here we go. Right, so there's Abraham. Moon Motel, I should say. Yeah, man, I think everything's there. I think it's a great, very complete sounding record, and I think all the ideas are there, and I like the overall structure. I like the overall arrangement of it, and I think in general, it definitely does what it says on the tin. I think in terms of just going through the detail of the feedback that I've got, I enjoyed a lot of those elements. I think I love the growling bass. I love the melodics of it. They're really quirky. I like a lot of the percussion. I think that works well too. But in terms of sort of getting more into the specifics here, this part at the beginning, it just felt like a little rushed because it was straight in with the big growls, if you know what I mean. I think you could actually hold back on that a little bit more and maybe almost have them creeping in off filters and just give the listener a little bit of time just to kind of get into the record a little bit. And then at that first initial drop, you get the big sort of bwah, the bram, as they used to call it in trailer music. Give it, hold back on that, because I just felt like you were maybe playing a lot of your cards a little early, which means you've kind of got less options a bit later on and it becomes less of a surprise. I think that's kind of a theme for that sound through. I think you could maybe back off on it sometimes. You can maybe make it really aggressive on other moments when it really works. I think that would work really, really well. The bass line, as Tony said, is really funky, really bouncy, got really, really nice, really, really nice movement. And Creep House, yeah, I like it. Suits you as a personality as well, mate, if you don't mind me saying. But ultimately, I think you can kind of play with that a little bit more. In terms of other bits, I think the main thing is I just want you to back off on things a little bit, because I was checking the loudness on a few occasions and there was some noticeable distortion with how it's been kind of limited. And again, I used the dynamics function here on Metric AB to just have a look at what the journey of the dynamics were through the track, and it was low in terms of its dynamic range. And you could hear sort of a bit of audible distortion, especially in the claps, some of the low end stuff, that kind of thing. Because again, it was running pretty hot here. It was running more towards sort of -6 LUFS. I was careful to play it through the session and on the stream without actually going into clipping within the DAW that's working on the background here. Logic, if you're interested. And again, mate, probably, mate, you've probably done that in Ozone and it's easy to do. It's one of the reasons why, on a personal one, don't use Ozone, because it's so easy to do. The mastering element is an art form unto itself. So, again, a little bit more control on that, and you're just sort of not coming up against the wall of the limiter a little bit will stand you in good stead, because you've got so many good elements here, giving them that little bit more room to breathe and allowing the definition to come through, the clarity to come through. It will really, really help it, because it won't be as much of a tiring listen on the ears, and it's not going to overwork people on the dance floor. Because again, if you imagine it here listening at home on my admittedly very nice monitors, imagine it in a club, sort of take the level and sort of triple it, quadruple it, whatever, times 10 it. It's gonna hit people in the face in quite a hard way and not the best way possible. So you just want to do your music a little bit of justice with that. So again, just soften it a little bit. That's the main thing. Kurt was detecting that there was maybe a little bit of frequency cancellation with the kick and the bass. I mean, it's not something I kind of heard, but it might be something to sort of check out and look at. Maybe phase flip either your kick or your bass, change the relationship between the two and go with the one that it sounds the best with. That is normally the best way. And again, you can avoid such things with, again, like I said before, studious use of side chaining as well. But all in all, mate, wicked record. It's dead quirky. It's really interesting. I'll have to make note of that brand new genre. I shall send an email immediately to the heads at Beatport to say, I've got a new genre for you this week. It's called Creep House, and you can be #1 on Beatport's Creep House chart. Love it. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'll shut up and I'll stop embarrassing myself. Really great track, mate. I think it's cool. And yeah, if you take those notes into consideration, I think you've you've nailed it, but I think you're almost there with it anyway. So yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. So yeah, okay, sure, can't see the other comments on the other comments not on YouTube, yeah, because some of them are on Facebook as well. So yeah, just double check that as well. So all good, right? Okay, so I'm actually gonna flip back over here, and I'm gonna play you. This is Kurt Gasso's track, which is called Silence, and yeah. So basically, like, let's have a listen to this, and we'll talk about it afterwards, because this is like the final version I wanted to hear. Funk the Void came up with it, calling me out also. Yeah, awesome, great stuff. Yeah, I do say hello to Lars. I've not spoke to him in years. Great stuff, mate. Nice one. So yeah, as I say, we're going to go to Kurt now, and we'll talk about this afterwards. But this is the final version of the track. I mean, I have heard other versions of this, but this is like the final version. So we're going to have a little listen to it, and then I'm going to have a bit of a chat to you about it afterwards, because this might be an interesting listen for people. So here we go. Let's just get that right. Again, I feel deeply irresponsible turning that off. And yes, it is a flying track. Hello Demo, absolutely. So there's a whole story to this, which I will get into, because Kurt is one of our AAA members. And basically, and we've been pushing him really, really hard for ages. And he's done incredible stuff. And for those of you who might know about the remix contest that we did last year with Bushwhacker, where we invited people through Hello Demo to remix The Sound, which is one of his classic tracks. Kurt was actually one of the winners, and we are awaiting the release date on that because, you know, obviously we're waiting until clubs reopen and stuff like that, but Kurt's rendition of that is just unbelievable and just as good as what you've just heard there as well. And yes, I am sponsored by NASA, Al. I am your regular neighborhood techno space cadet. So there you go. So yeah, there. Well, what else have I got for you? So yeah, I mean, this is kind of like what lots of these feedback sessions do for artists, and this is why we specialize in it at MYT. You know, we listen to multiple different versions of the track, we really push people, we really try and get the levels out of it. And I specifically wanted to play this track because I wanted to hear the final mix down, which he's just nailed. But I love it because if you listen to the Deltium track before, this is one of the things I love, playing a track that provides an example of the feedback I was given to another track. So those sort of orchestral strings I spoke about before in relation to Deltium, that is a great example of what that can sound like. And, you know, it's all down to those orchestral strings. I mean, what Kurt uses, similar to what I use, a lot of Spitfire orchestral stuff. You know, there's great stuff in Native Instruments as well, Symphony Essentials, and just layering those up and getting that real cinematic sound. Like somebody said before, get it on All Day I Dream. You know, absolutely. And just a note to Bongworth here, I appreciate it, but there'll be no illegal downloading going on here. Thank you very much. We're all starving artists trying to make a living. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Daniel X got enough money to try and buy Arsenal Football Club, but he can't afford to pay us fair streams, can he? So, you know, come on, play fair. I thought you were, a German not in Germany. Where's your German sense of fair play? I don't know. Anyway, fantastic stuff from Kurt. It really is. I mean, he's just been pushing on this. I think this is like the 19th version of the mixdown that he's been working on. And it just sort of just goes to show you just how persistence and patience and application just sort of pays off, as well as good feedback from peers, you know. And again, like, this is what we're doing now. You know, we're going to prepare this to go off to some very big labels. We're going to get him signed, and, you know, hopefully we're gonna see his career really take off. There's absolutely no reason why not with music like this, you know. And yeah, I mean, vinyl's a great shout, isn't it, for that kind of record? Absolutely beautiful. It's been so impeccably well mixed that it would sound fantastic on any format that you put it out in. So, you know, that's kind of, as I say, what we do at MYT. You know, we really push people and help them get signed, which is exactly what Hello Demo's here to do as well. And that's why MYT and Hello Demo are such close partners, because, you know, Hello Demo's trying to change the way we work with music. Again, it's their music, it's the music inbox. You know, they're looking to change the way that we interact on that front and how we look at music, how we get it signed, amongst many, many other things. And yeah, we are, you know, we're a great partnership. So, you know, you've got everything you need, all the tools you need, basically, between the two of us. And, you know, again, the result is in the pudding with Kurt. So awesome. Andy Jardine, good to see you, mate. Only caught the end of that, but it sounded incredible. Feel free to rewind it and have a little listen. You're more than welcome. So yeah, amazing stuff. So yeah, just a great example there of, you know, the capabilities of both Hello Demo and MYT with a great artist. Indeed, could not agree more. And it's going to be great to, you know, follow up when the Bushwhacker remix comes out and a whole other kind of element there as well. So fantastic stuff. Right, moving on, because we're making quite good time tonight, aren't we? Let's go to odds, rolling noise, and let's see what we've got here. Let's hopefully we are keeping the high standards up so far this evening. Here we go. Another excellent track there in a very different way. Thanks for sending that in there. Odds, excellent stuff. So yeah, well, this reminds me of, like, it takes me back to a particular moment, and I love it when tracks do this. Took me back to, times when these things called nightclubs were open and people could go in them and dance late into the night listening to repetitive beats at loud volumes. It took me actually to Ibiza and the opening of the Trans Moderna party in, I think, 2019. Yeah, it would have been 2019 because didn't have any of that last year, did we, unfortunately? But yeah, it took me back to there, Dixon, Arme, and specifically, like, to me, that sounds like something like Trick would play. Like, he was playing stuff like that night when I saw him. And he's again, like, this type of track is wonderful for this kind of thing. I love the real kind of interesting drum rolls, very almost like distorted but organic sounding. I agree with Tony about, the white noise really, really works and it shuffles in a really interesting way. I also like how things kind of almost sound like, especially towards the end of the build to the drop, I like how it almost sounds like it's sort of disorganizing itself a little, and it's kind of like just rattling around. Absolutely brilliant, because again, it catches you off guard and it keeps you interested all the way through. Like Tony was saying there, love the subtle changes through this track. They really keep this track interesting and aggressive. Inclined to agree for sure. And again, this is the type of track that's a bit misleading in a way, because listening to it at home, or listening to it like in your car, for example, or even with headphones on or whatever, you might be lured into a bit of a false sense of security that it's a little bit tame, or like a little bit kind of linear, and then you hear it in a club and it absolutely blows your head clean off your shoulders, right? So again, like, to be able to hear this at louder volumes would be an absolute treat. Because again, I love how sparse it is. I love how minimal it is. It's got a really kind of like beautifully kind of like sinister atmosphere to it. And I think it's a really, really well accomplished piece of work. I actually really like the hangover at the end of that build as well, where you kind of just left hanging in midair and not really sure what to expect. And then, it drops just at the right moment. I mean, I'd like to see that, I hear a little bit more in terms of like rhythmical layers and stuff, just to keep things moving through the track a little bit more. But again, done in that really minimalistic, quite subtle way, not too heavy-handed. And again, like, don't be afraid to kind of bring those atmospherics up a little bit more in the breaks as well, just to really underline that sinister atmosphere. But really, at this point, it's just nitpicking on what is otherwise a beautiful track. Really, really well done, man. Really, really well done. Here he is, almost human. I think he's fully human anyway. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you, my friend. Excellent. Right, okay, so I think we've got, 3 more to go now. So let's go to Partenaire, shall we? Yes, Drawn Break, I think it's called. Let's have a little listen to this, shall we? Here we go. Well, I am loving at the moment the resurgence of breakbeat. Absolutely loving it, and that was an excellent example of some good breaks right there. Really, really enjoyable that, and yes, a lot to admire. You know, again, like the Sasha type vocal, as Tony called it. And yeah, really, really beautiful atmospherics, and the drums massively on point. Really, really beautiful, really beautiful. And yeah, just enjoyed the whole journey of it, you know. It just kept me engaged and wondering where it was going to go next, and really, really beautiful, really beautiful. Yes, I totally agree, Hans. Yeah, basically, like, one thing I would say is, like, just sort of by the final sort of section, you know, in this sort of section here, it just kind of got a little bit, you know, not linear, but it was kind of almost repeating itself a little bit. What I think you could do, I personally found a breakdown. This is probably me, old prog boy trance head talking here. I found the break a little short. I think you could actually get away with a longer break where you could bring more atmospherics into it, because I wanted those lovely pads that started sort of glistening around after the drop. I kind of wanted something similar to really lift the breakdown another level and really get the emotions going and really get it building back up to when it drops into that lovely clean break, and then you've got the breakbeats doing its thing, and you know, you're in that right sort of position. So I think you could spend a little bit more time building it up, because those lovely kind of like RP sort of lead synths, they kind of arrive and they're all like bang, and then they're in the drop basically. I think you could take a little bit more time building those up, making them a little bigger, maybe opening out the filters, opening out the reverb, that kind of thing. I think it would work really, really well. Really, really well. So yeah, I mean, that would be really like my only bit of feedback really, is to, you know, really lift the atmospherics and really get the emotions flowing and get even more texture and context and spaciousness and almost like a cosmic kind of element, of course, because, you know, I'm sponsored by NASA apparently, so cosmic stuff is very, very appropriate, right? So I would say that is like the only bit of feedback I've got. Other than that, man, I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it, man. Excellent work. Excellent work. Great stuff. Rico asks how we can send tracks. These tracks were sent in already on the Hello Demo platform, and you know, we're going to do these sessions both with Hello Demo. Maybe, you know, we'll do them again. They do regular feedback sessions. You know, they had Eddie Wimben on recently. You know, they've had a number of great artists do these feedback sessions, so I'm honoured to be part of it tonight. Very, very nice. And yeah, basically, like, we'll be doing these, you know, every so often on the MYT YouTube channel as well. So, you know, keep it locked for further sessions. You know, we did one last year with Nick Muir from Bedrock, which was wicked. You know, we might do one with a guest on the YouTube channel a little bit later on in the year. Just keep it locked, basically. And Bongworth asks about MYT and where would be the appropriate place to ask. Yeah, all the information's on the website, mate. If you can go to www.transition.studio, loads of information on the YouTube channel as well. But feel free to drop me a private message on Instagram at Paul Nolan Sound. We're on Instagram as well. Make your transition. Make you our transition. You can drop us direct messages on there. You know, we're obviously on Facebook, we're on all the major platforms. And if you want, you can drop me an email as well, paul@transition.studio. And yeah, feel free to ask. And, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions and help you out in any way. We're here to help at the end of the day. You know, we like to think we're a little bit more than just, you know, another tutorial site. You know, we're more holistic. We're more about, you know, everything from mental and physical health right the way through to workflow, to mindset, you know, artist development. You know, we're trying to give you all the tools, and I mean all the tools, to be not only a successful artist, but a successful human being with it, because that's important. You know, the only true success in life is getting to choose how to spend your days, and also to have an optimum amount of health, because health is wealth, right? And we don't want to have to succeed in the electronic music business at the cost of our health. So we're here to help you do that in a balanced way, in a way that you can carry on doing what you love to do for as long as possible. So simple as that. Simple as that. Glad you're enjoying it, Abraham, and thanks for the track once again. Great to listen to it. So, couple to go. We've got Shango Ikidun, which is a really nice name. Rolls off the tongue nicely. Awesome stuff. Oh, and Bongworth, when you do that, let me know where you are in Germany, because under normal circumstances, I'm normally spending quite a bit of time over there. So you never know. We might bump into each other in person. When that's the done thing again. But there you go. One can hope. All right, let's listen to Shango's track, shall we? And this is the penultimate track, so let's make the most of it. Here we go. there's some pretty interesting, pretty out there, shall we say, quite unique sounds. And yeah, really interesting. And I think there's a lot of potential here, like I said, with a lot of the other tracks. You know, I love the wonkiness of it. I love kind of how out there it is and how it's kind of memorable in a way, because it's just so kind of like non-standard, if you get what I mean. We seem to have a bit of a theme going tonight. Creep house, very devilish, all going a bit sinister. You know, it's a bit of a theme with the tracks tonight, but you know, all good. We'll run with it. So yeah, I think the basis of the track is really cool. You've got some really good sounds going on. I think it does get a bit busy at times and a little bit cluttered. And I think when you start to kind of go down that wonky route of like pitch modulating things, I think you can get away with it for a certain amount of time. And I think it works in the context of a breakdown. But say, for example, that sort of twistiness carried on after the drop, and it kind of tilted the track a little off axis for me and kind of made it a little bit unstable. Now, for me, what I would say, I think, you know, you could just sort of straighten those sounds out after the drop, and it would make it a bit more standard, but it would contrast really nicely. You know, I always refer to what Nile Rodgers, the great Nile Rodgers of Chic fame and producer of David Bowie amongst a million other people, what he calls the one-time only event, which is something that happens in a record and it only happens one time, and it's a moment so interesting, so innovative, so unique, and so almost mind-blowing that you have to rewind the record to listen to it again to make sure you got it the first time. But you've got to be brave enough, disciplined enough, and committed enough to only pull that trick off once in a record. And that is a little bit more difficult than you would think, because once you find something cool, yeah, you want to keep doing it. Like, keep pushing the button, get the reward. You know, that kind of thing, like a crack-addled mouse. But yeah, anyway, terrible metaphor there. Sorry about that. In terms of, you know, the discipline of it, though, that's the main thing to take from that bit of feedback for sure. You know, I kind of agree with Tony here. I mean, tell me how you really feel, Tony. In terms of the hi-hats have too much reverb. It sounded like a delay to me. It's kind of like I've done this with hi-hats before, where you sort of put them through a stereo delay, right? And you put the left side on, like, say, 1/16th note, and the other one on, like, 3/16ths. And then you get your normal straight hi-hat, and you get so much more rhythmical complexity out of it. The thing about it, though, is it sounds it's very easy to overdo, and you can start washing things over, and it starts to kind of lose clarity. And while you get extra rhythm, you lose that kind of cutting edge. And I feel like that's what's happened here. And I think there's ways of just sort of toning it down a little bit. To give you my exact settings, because I'm a geek and I memorize these things, if I'm using, say, something like, you know, a stereo delay, or now as it's called, delay in Ableton, I'll use, again, 1 and 3/16ths on either side, doesn't matter which. And then I'll add in maybe, like, I want to say 30% feedback, and then, to be honest with you, the dry and wet's like 25% at most. Normally around 18 to 20%, something like that. And it just gives you enough of an implication to give you that complexity without it washing over everything. Because again, with the way that hi-hats are, they cover a lot of ground, they cover a lot of space frequency-wise as well, so they can kind of clutter things up quite easily. So you can get the most out of these by starting off with a straight hi-hat, and then when you feel like you need that extra gear in the gearbox, flip it, 25% feedback, 25% dry wet, and off you go. Automate it, and you can then recycle that later on. You know, from what I heard, there was a lot of like sounds coming in like all at once, and not really enough recycling of sounds, if you know what I mean. Where once you've got a build like that and a drop, one of the reasons why we drop to just kicks and stuff, not only because it's quite dramatic and it does get a crowd going, it gives us an opportunity to recycle the sounds that we've already used and be able to give people a chance to miss those sounds, if you get what I mean. So yeah, but there's a lot to like in here, and there's a lot of really great touches. I just think it's a bit busy, and I think you could simplify it. I love these kind of tracks though, to be honest, because they've almost got like 3 or 4 different tracks worth of ideas in them, right? So you want to maybe kind of simplify, tone some things down, and then maybe shuffle some ideas out and be able to make whole other tracks out of them. I was talking about this on my podcast, Beyond the Studio, which we put up on the YouTube channel as well. Latest episode is with Rashida Jami from Anjuna Deep Noir, Ministry of Sound, that kind of thing. And also we've got a great episode coming up next week with Braxton, who's also released on Anjuna Deep, and he's a great guy. And we were talking about this, where sometimes you'll make a track and you'll never release it, but it's a track that, as I call it, it has babies. I've written tracks before, and I've made 6 other tracks out of the ideas that I stuffed into this one record. And it was almost like the Queen track, if you know what I mean. And it just kept on kind of having little techno offsprings or little prog offsprings based on the ideas that I managed to put into it. It's very similar to what like a film composer does, like a Hans Zimmer or a Junkie XL, where they write like long suites where it's effectively every idea they've got for the film in one piece of music, which lasts anything up to about 20 odd minutes, right? So it's worth kind of considering that might be one of these tracks. So simplify it, strip it out, and it's great that you've got so many ideas. You don't need to overstuff them all into one track, basically, because you've got like a whole EP going there in one record. Perfect. Al, invaluable tailored feedback. Why, thank you, sir. Enjoying and learning. That's what it's about. We try and have fun. I personally believe if we're having a laugh, we're learning. That's what it's about. All right, so we're into the last track now, Joe MaRoot, Healing Sea. So let's have a little listen, and let's hope we round things off on a positive note. I'm sure we will. Here we go. Right, well, it looks like we saved a very good one to last, right? Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Al, it reminds me of Kerala Dust Sounds, but way better structure. Great track. Yeah, man, so innovative, right? I mean, there's so many reference points that come to mind when I listen to that. There's bits of like Depeche Mode in there. There's bits of Uncle. You know, there's Kerala Dust, as you were saying before. Monolinkish, as Javier said. And yeah, it just works, doesn't it? It all just kind of works together and gives something very, very unique, which is kind of like a cross between, like it was almost like kind of going into techno there at the end. And yeah, it was so like sort of indie disco, really cool stuff, you know. Really, really, yeah, I love that. Like, almost reminded me of like Disco Halal as well, to an extent as well. Little bits of that. But yeah, I mean, so unique, right? I mean, the great thing about this Bongworth is, believe it or not, all of these tracks are unsigned, as far as I'm aware. Because again, they've all been uploaded to Hello Demo. And again, Hello Demo, you know, is there to help people get signed, as are we, right? So it's an amazing thing to think like the quality of the tracks that we've played tonight, and even the ones that we've given feedback on and like, you know, sound like we've got levels in them, can all go from good to great, or go from great to fucking amazing. Do you know what I mean? It's all possible. It's all there for the artists there, man. So shows you how high the quality is. It really is fantastic. Some great music being made at the moment. Nice to hear people making the most of the time that they're spending in the studio. So yeah, I mean, it's just some mixed notes for me on this, to be honest. I mean, again, I agree with Al that the structure of this track is fantastic. You know, for me, there was a couple of little sections where like the lead guitar kind of just sort of popped my ear a little bit, and it was a little bit pokey in the mix, and I think you could just soften them a little bit. Another thing I would say as well is like, I do like that kind of like crunchy, almost like mechanical found sound kind of hi-hat in there. I reckon you could get away with layering it with something a little bit more, you know, standard, a little bit more, you know, a little bit more what you would expect, like a shaker or, you know, a standard sort of like smooth hi-hat, which will give you the benefit of the stability of that more regular hi-hat and something a little more nuanced and a bit more sound design, if you know what I mean. And you can then add that in layers, which gives you more gears to the gearbox, right? Gives you more, you know, moments to play with in the context of the track. The vocals fantastic, very sort of like, you know, again, very Uncle kind of vibe. Again, very Trent Moller. You know, if I was to give a reference point of like where this track would eventually get to, it's something like, you know, Trent Moller, like Moan, or something like, you know, Shades of Marble, that kind of thing, with that lovely kind of like beautifully played like lead guitar. Really, really nice. I think there's more in that in terms of the vocals, more in terms of sending off to like really nice and weird send effects, weird sort of delays, pitch delays, granular delays, you know, big reverbs, interesting little tricks that you could play, reverse reverbs into the sounds, things like that, you know, to suck into the next vocal line at the appropriate moment. And then maybe with the guitars as well, you know, making them a little bit more psychedelic, a little bit more interesting, a bit more trippy, you know. And I'm at this rate, to be honest, I'm seriously nitpicking, because by the end it was really going some, and it works a hell of a lot. But yeah, beautiful, really innovative, really interesting. You know, I'm really going to remember that, because I'm not really sure in a good way where that fits genre-wise, right? That's what it's about. That's what it's about. You want things that kind of straddle different genres. They work at the intersections of various genres. So I think that works beautifully. Really, really does. Fantastic feedback from everybody watching. And yeah, there you go. What a way to finish this evening. Hey, guys. Awesome stuff. Right, moving back to the main camera. Right, it's been great tonight. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention and the great comments and everything else. I think it's been a really successful evening, and I look forward to hearing from you again. Don't forget to obviously give us a like, a share, a subscribe. Do that YouTuber thing, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For us, for Hello Demo, obviously, give them a like on Facebook, give them a follow on social media, Instagram, all of that stuff. We're across all the platforms. Again, you can go to hello-demo.com. That will give you information on your music inbox, which again is slowly but surely changing the game in terms of how we manage music and making everything easy and making everything fun and, upping our chances as artists to get signed. And, obviously we're here to do that as well at MYT, www.transition.studio. And yeah, we're here for you. Like I say, we're not just a normal tutorial site. We are a movement, we're a culture, we're a community. And we're a movement, and we are really, really taking things forward as a group. We are doing incredible things at the moment. So amazing to be part of Hello Demo and part of that journey. Great to have you all see what we do. Normally we do these sessions like this, but also on Zoom as well, so you can actually speak to us and we can speak to each other and give each other feedback. That's another great way of doing it. We wanted to set that up for tonight, but unfortunately we couldn't get that set up in time. But anyway, all good stuff. Thank you very much. A few comments to finish off. The quality of the tracks tonight has been really fantastic. It's great to hear some unsigned stuff. Awesome. And yes, Hello Demo as well. Big thanks to everyone who sent in music, especially those who joined us, and especially, to yours truly for such amazing feedback. Thank you. They've got more live sessions coming up. Like I said earlier, we've had a number of different artists doing these feedback sessions with Hello Demo. Edu Imbanon did one recently. There's a whole schedule of them coming. So again, you make sure you follow Hello Demo to find out who's coming next. Hopefully I'll get the call again soon. And yeah, we're probably going to do these on the MYT channel as well, like every so often. As I say, we do these for our members, once a month. We have regular office hours, which are like, just general Q&As where you can come in and ask anything. As I say, we're not just here, have a course and shut up and give you your money. We are here for you. We're here to, help you get the feedback and the support that you deserve, and to have a community support you through that. So all good. Al, can we send you music on Hello Demo? Yes, you can. If you go to hd.click/MYT, you'll see our HD link page. That's got links to everything. It's got the website, our podcast Beyond the Studio, which we're up to episode 16 now. We've had people like Patrice Baumel, we've had Josh Butler, we've had Rashida Jami this week, we've got Braxton next week, we've got some amazing long form conversations coming up in the next few weeks. So it's well worth looking into that. And you'll just see a little link there that says, send me music, and you can just drag and drop tracks straight in. There you go. And we can take it from there and go in and try and, do some more feedback sessions soon. So there you go, guys. There you go. That is going to do it for this evening. Can't thank you all enough once again for everything. And yes, keep it locked to everything that we're doing. And yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening wherever you are. Stay safe, and I shall see you guys soon. Much love. See you later.